To various degrees, we all know about the greatness of Phil Jackson from a coaching and leadership standpoint, as he's not only arguably the greatest coach in NBA history, but he's even in the conversation of the greatest coaches in sports history. We also know about his stint as a general manager with the New York Knicks, which was disappointing to say the least, and is all the proof you need that a high basketball IQ doesn't mean you'll excel at every role within an organization. But then there was Phil Jackson as a player, which is the least documented and least discussed aspect of his basketball career, which then begs the question, just how good of a basketball player was Phil Jackson really? Today, I'll do my best to answer that, and we'll start as we always do, by taking it back to the beginning of his career. Phil Jackson was selected with the 17th overall pick by the New York Knicks in the 1967 NBA Draft. He was a lengthy 6'8" power forward who was joining a losing Knicks squad who appeared as if they were beginning to turn the corner. I couldn't find an exact measurement of Phil Jackson's wingspan, but it's definitely impressive, as his extremely long arms and harassing tendencies made him difficult defensively. With that being said, he wasn't much of an offensive threat, especially earlier on in his career. In his rookie season as a 22-year-old, he played at only 14.6 minutes per game, and he averaged about 6 points and 4.5 rebounds on only 40% shooting, and a well below average 59% from the free throw line. Despite not being a scoring threat, he still managed to make the NBA's all-rookie team thanks to his energetic defense off the bench. In The Last Dance, there was a brief comparison of Phil Jackson's game to Dennis Rodman's, and it's really quite incredible how similar he actually was to Rodman. Definitely not in terms of production, but more so in terms of their play styles, as he appeared to be somewhat awkward on the court, and he wasn't a great offensive player, but he always played with hustle and heart and had a strong motor that kept him going at 100% regardless of how many minutes he played. Phil was also extremely competitive, a trait he said he got from his mother, who was the team captain of her high school basketball team, and who Phil said was probably the most competitive person he's ever known, which is a statement that really blows your mind even if you think about it for just a few seconds. His game would continue to develop over time, but the progress was somewhat hindered by an ongoing issue throughout his playing career, and even in his life in general. He played in only 47 games in his sophomore season due to his chronic back issues. The pain and issues in his back were so severe that it caused him to also miss the entirety of his third season. This could have been the end of his career, but fortunately, New York held on to him, and Jackson stuck with it. Despite Phil missing the 1970 season, New York still went on to win 60 games and eventually the NBA championship. Since Phil was still technically on the roster, he was granted an NBA championship ring, the first of many that he would accumulate throughout his basketball career. By the time he returned to the court for the Knicks in the 1970-71 season, New York was ready to continue their dominant play, with stars like Walt Frazier and Willis Reed. Although they would make several deep postseason runs, his year wouldn't come until the 1972-73 season, where Jackson's Knicks won 57 games. This was far from Jackson's best season of his career, but he had made significant improvements to several aspects of his game, including his mid-range shooting. In his 17.4 minutes per game, he averaged 8.1 points and 4.3 rebounds on 44.3% shooting and a tremendously improved 79% from the free throw line. He had now become a key contributor, mostly defensively, and his Knicks went on to win the 1973 NBA championship in 5 games over the Los Angeles Lakers. Although this was the highlight of his career from a team standpoint, his best season as an individual would come 2 years later, as Phil had found his way into the starting lineup, averaging nearly 30 minutes per game and putting up 10.8 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 1.1 steals on 45.5% shooting, while also continuing his reliable defense. He certainly wasn't lacking any tenacity that season, as his aggressive defense also resulted in him leading the league in personal fouls that year. He would begin his decline from that point as he advanced into his 30s, finishing out his final 2 seasons with the New Jersey Nets. At the end of the day, Phil Jackson would not have made the Hall of Fame simply off of his playing career, but he was an impact player on one of the great teams of NBA history, and it comes as no surprise that one of the greatest coaches ever played basketball the way coaches always preach it: defense leading to offense, team first, and with hustle and heart throughout the entirety of the contest. Obviously, considering my age, everything I shared in this video is based off of lots of research, and all the footage I could witness of Phil Jackson's game. So with that being said, if you're someone who witnessed him play, I care tremendously to hear your perspective on just how good Phil Jackson was as a basketball player. As for the rest of you, let me know in the comments section if you think Phil Jackson is the greatest coach in NBA history. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.